I start with Alhamdulillah, and I send blessings upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all his companions and those who believed in him, and I say peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The word of modernism in Arabic language goes to three interpretations. First, modernism is justice. He said, who is the most just? Then the second is charity. When Allah said, we made you just nation, as just nation. The third interpretation, the praised balance between the two poles, between terrorism and the other pole. When we say Allah built the sky and set the balance, this is the balance of modernism. Don't defraud the balance, the scale. Don't transgress in the balance, and establish the balance, and don't make this scale lost. This is the balance between the two poles of losing and winning. Don't raise your voice, don't lower your voice, and hold a medium in performing your prayers. When they spend, they are not neither extremely generous, and they hold a medium way between the two. So don't raise your voice, don't be low in establishing the performer. Hold a medium way between raising your voice and lowering your voice. So modernism goes to these interpretations: charity, justice, balance, praised balance between the two poles, extremes. If we want to identify for this modernism adopted by the Muslim Brotherhood, and they wanted to solidify it in the awareness and in the work, what is understood is to present Islam as a guide for humanity and time, related to reality, explained in the language of the current time, between the reason and the mind, open for the future and conservative in the goals and principles, advanced in the mechanisms, fixed in the sources, flexible in the branches, and partial, easy in fatwa, giving glad tidings, and open for all organizations without being thawed, and observing the peculiarity without being closed. Seeking wisdom from any place comes, working on enhancing the joint concept, heritage of humanity and civilization, related to the past and related to the present. This is the meaning of the modernism. And if we want to point out to the symptoms of this modernism and that influence in this word of the nation, we could say the Hassan al-Banna, the founder member, the Martyr Hassan al-Banna, he established this in the understanding in which he explained the 20 articles of the Usul. And this worked on identifying the symptoms of this modernism on the level of the belief through the large meaning of the Sunnah and Jama'ah, fixed in the sources, and absorbing the new innovative things could be tolerated according to the Aqidah, despite the differences. Also, we have modernism in the Fiqh school between those who stopped when they said that the schools are extremist and are not changing, and they said we cannot bring better than what was left by the grandfathers, and those who wanted to come with innovative issues. So he established modernism in accepting these schools in general without being extremist or not intolerant to a school. and he considered the accumulated of the efforts of nation to build on what was built. Then you give your innovative thoughts and additional ideas. So a person, the Muslim who does not have enough, he could lead a leader, not imitate. Follow, not to imitate. To follow is to take with an evidence, with guidance. Then he referred to accept any guidance with a proof, evidence, when it was proved and it was sufficient. And they need to work, to study more, to be among those men of understanding and minds. Then the second equation in this modernism, after aqidah, ideology and fiqh, in jurisprudence, in the schooling process, between that part, in that extreme part of the Sufis and those extremists of Salafiyah, then he liberated the schooling pillar in accepting the Sufis in core and in principle. He chose to express in the core and essence of Sufism. It was based on purifying the soul and elevating the soul without being extremist, which was mentioned by some of those who believe in the Sufi school. So he built also the ideology in terms of the in the idea of expiating or considering others disbelievers, takfir. It is related to some denying some verses of the Holy Quran, or it could be interpreted with things cannot be explained in language. This which was built by Shaheed Mata leader Hassan al-Banna, dismantled 5 trajectories in the Islamic modern Islam concept. The first one is the suicide school. The suicide school starting with expiating, considering others disbelievers, and ending with the bomb blasts and explosion, considering others the infidels, and ending with the explosion based on the Khawarij in the past. And the modernism started to dismantle this suicide schools through the 6 pillars. The first one, the wrong interpretation of jihad and fighting. The second, the misinterpretation of the ruling and the misinterpretation of ignorance or pre-Islamic age. Also the misinterpretation of allegiance. And the 5th misinterpreted thing is enjoining what is ma'ruf, monotheism, and forbidding from munkar, polytheism. And the 6th, in the relation with the others. So he dismantled those 6 ideas of the infidelity or considering others infidelity. I expressed this in the suicide ideology. This also, the modernism also dismantled the second trajectory of the modern Islamic ideology, which is against the suicide, being astonished. So when we see the new Western modern civilization, this astonishment, which has becoming like followers without distinguishing the beneficial of the civilization, we need to stop here and we need to understand, because some can contradict the Sharia and Islam. And also number 3 is the way of thinking in protection. When we speak about differences in aqidah or fiqh, jurisprudence, or behavior, or the reality, they consider it like a way of protection and allegiance, and also a way of differences. Conjecture could be certainty, and subsidies could be, or the subtitles could be titles. So he also worked on dismantling this. And the last, or the fourth way of the ideology, which was the taking way, taking from others way. So keeping, observing the experts or the texts of the old, as cannot be improved. So we need to move our challenges to the present without considering the future or the challenges of the present. He also, in modernism, he dismantled this way of thinking in referring to the accumulation between the efforts of the past and the present and the future. So the future could help the past. We cannot say we cannot improve the issue or show up the issue, but we need to say we cannot say the old men did not leave us anything to us to do, but we need to say how much the old left to us to work. So the suicide and astonishment principles and protection, and the protection, we have also the last fifth, the modernism, current or school, which established these meanings through the influence of this modernism. This ideology of modernism gave a project for renaissance to move the nation from the existence to being witness, from the existence to the present witnesses, and thus we could cut it short. The meanings of this project of renaissance to present Islam as ideology that matches the innateness, the inborn nature, and the ability to build, and the mind inspired by wisdom, and science inspired by belief, and belief associated with work and labor to invitation, morals with body with soul, and legislation for the interests of people, and the justice that is associated with being charitable and good to others, strength associated with righteousness, and the morals that make life better, art that is observing the principles, and the good that is beautiful. This modernism managed, in dismantling these concepts, managed to give the school of the relation with others. You know, when we think about the other, this term cannot be interpreted as an enmity or being enemies. We cannot mention people as foes or enemies, but when we describe devil, the person who are fighting could be your friend. The person could come to a ceasefire. The person who opposes you could be your friend or ally later. Only devil could be considered a foe. So he built it on seven pillars. The first pillar, belief in the origin of humanity. They come from one father and one mother. So humanity comes back to Allah, and the father is Adam. The second pillar, so all people have morality and dignity. The third, we need to build the human beings, not ignore them. This is number three. It's not a matter of brotherhood or brethren of faith. The highest level of brotherhood is brethren. When we speak about Ad, to their brotherhood, and Thamud, their brother Salihan, the brother of Ad, when he warned his people with the Kurd hills, Ali, the Imam, said, people are two kinds, either brother to you in Islam or parallel in creature. He is your human brother. The fourth pillar is the differences between humankind cannot be opposed, as it is the will of Allah. The fifth pillar, the differences, the fruit of differences, to know each other. When we speak about knowing each other, we need to know each other and giving charitable things and righteousness. Sixth pillar, argument which is in the better. Don't argue the people of the scripture except with which is better. If there are two ways, fair and more fairer, we need to observe the fairer, the more principled one. And the Holy Quran lastly said and talked about the righteousness and justice. The righteousness is the good morals, and justice is being good to others and charitable to others, and also enhanced the joint principles between ourselves and those who oppose us in aqidah and religion. We need to come to the common denominators, whether human beings or cultural or civilization common denominators. Based on these 7 pillars with the others, we found that Islamic institutions that belong to this modernism established these institutions and showed the relations and the relationship with the community where they live in the West, and they established references, jurisprudence references in those countries to establish the original relationship with that West country. For example, the European Central for IFTA and Research and the Jurisprudence Center in North America and Canada. These centers passed the transitional jurisprudence in dividing into war, Islam, and disbelief. They considered the whole world as one village of da'wah. So people who entered those countries, the Western countries, they came with a visa. This visa is a covenant and a treaty. This covenant and the treaty makes them, they need to observe the constitution and the system and the law of those countries. And Muslims in those countries, they have 2 belongings. The first one is the aqidah, religion, and they have the belonging of citizenship. They have their due rights. So they need to observe the rights, the ways of worship and family in those societies. At the same time, they are doing their job as righteous and good citizens in those communities. So that was the modernism. They established the relationship in that community, and they established those communities that jurisprudent building edifice and established those Sharia references that those built themselves in that modernism in those areas. This modernism concept or school was extended by good scholars and men. They did not stop at the level of the founder. If we speak about Egypt, we found distinguished modern Al-Qaradawi, Muhammad Al-Ghazali. Those are scholars, great scholars, Muhammad Amara and Bahiyya Al-Khuli, and also consultant Tariq Al-Bashri, Fahmi Huwaidi, Dr. Salim Al-Awa, Ahmad Al-Assal, Dr. Ahmad Al-Assal in Iraq, Dr. Abdul Karim Zaidan, Professor Mahmoud Sawaf in Algeria, Fudayli Al-Wartalani, Scholar Mahmoud Al-Nahnah, we in Lebanon, Sheikh Faisal Mawlawi, Fathi Yakan. They were scholars, distinguished scholars, thousands in those areas. When we speak about the Islamic world in different parts of those schools of modernism who established these principles, I've explained this. ideology, when we speak about this, the expiation or takfir, considering others infidels, he explained the approach of extremism. When we address extremism, it's not a matter of security. The security approach that ended in Guantanamo detention center deteriorated the situation. Modernism, they made the ideological dialogue as a bridge, as we were following Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali when he sent Ibn Abbas to discuss the Khawarij and know the principles and what pushed them to carry weapons and fight the ruler, Islamic ruler at that time. And he brought the argument in that dialogue. So that ideology, modern ideology, was based on dialogue to dismantle the 6 principles of extremism adopted by a lot of extremist groups. When we speak about right interpretation of jihad and fighting, there are some points to be discussed. Each fighting in the cause of Allah is considered jihad, and not every jihad is considered jihad. And there are some conditions for jihad to defend so fight in the cause of Allah, those who fight you, and don't exceed your limits, don't transgress. But jihad is larger, and those could be doing jihad in words. And the first was in the Holy Quran, endeavor with them with utmost endeavor in words and eloquence, not in swords. Then they corrected the concept or governance. So the rule belongs to Allah, does not alienate the working hard in terms of the and it is known in the Holy Quran when we speak about the human beings and the authentic hadith. And those scholars, in investigating from the texts of Sharia, they could study, because some judgments could be based on clear ideas, others built on conjecture. Some of them could be misinterpreted. As Prophet Muhammad said, what was silenced, it was something like forgiveness, so accept this forgiveness from Allah. This is a field to follow up. And thus, and when we speak about the allegiance and being innocent, being allegiant and innocent, you can build a close relationship with non-Muslims. So what is this close relationship based on faith? Believers have close relationships. For example, a person who marries non-Muslim is based on intimacy and mercy. This is the correction of the wrong, the allegiance and innocence. And in this context, we could see what Imam Ali, when he gave Malik ibn Ashkar on Egypt, Egypt included Muslims, Copts. He said, Malik, remember that I sent you to a country. States were built with injustice. So people will look at you in the same way you looked to the rulers. So let the best thing for you is the righteous deeds. Let your heart feel with love to nation, being courteous to them. I told you, he said to him, there are non-Muslims there. You need to take care of them and be sympathetic with them. Don't be on them like lion eating the food. There are two kinds, either the Muslim brothers or parallel in creature. They could make mistakes, and they could do a lot of sins. So give them and forgive them, overlook and Forgive as you want Allah to forgive you, as you are the ruler, and Allah is above all. So this is the righteous deeds. This is the righteous understanding in the clearance and allegiance and the governance and the pre-Islamic age, as some considered. It could be considering the society infidels and the Jahiliyyah, which the modernism considered. There are two kinds of pre-Islamic, the belief and work. Muslims could do this. Those who are Muslims, some Muslims could be ignorant, have some ignorant traits, but they are not ignorant. But the whole society is not ignorant or be like the pre-Islamic ignorance of this belief. This is modernism. This modernism has expanded on nations, ages, institutions, courses that established this way for against extremism and against and losing the pure Islam from the other. And I conclude in this short story. In this story, in Sudan we had trace of this modernism. Some they were called Dimber cell. They were fighting police, killed a policeman, and the policeman killed a person from them. Then they were detained and they were brought to Al-Huda prison in the capital. I was the head of the Islamic Fiqh Center. I requested from Al-Bashir to have a dialogue with them, and he allowed me to talk to them. I visited them in prison, and I wanted to talk with them. Then they agreed. Then I spoke to the representative of the security services and the Ministry of Justice and Interior. We don't want to dialogue prisoners. The prisoners need to move in dialogue to our place of Al-Fiqh Council. So we started in the first phase to build confidence between them and those members of the generation. It was a trace of the modernism in which we believed in solidifying it. We started in building confidence, and we said to them, you could think that we are not proper to establish the prayer, and you consider us like rulers or people in power, and we cannot be imams. But we don't have doubts about you. So go and be the imam in this prayer. It was a turning point of building confidence. Then we worked together. Then we opened the dialogue that lasted for 5 months. In all cases, open dialogue without limits. Only that we were very down to earth in the dialogue. Later, it was clear that they were wrongdoers. Then we started to merge them. Those who left, who were fired from school, they were brought back to the universities. Those who were fired from their jobs, those who wanted to get married, we helped them, and so on. And so they became members who are active in the society, and they have their role. Then we established and solid and documented the experience, and members and ambassadors of European and the ambassadors of some European countries and the rapporteurs of the humanitarian issue and the charge d'affaires in US, they attended our course. We told them, you resorted to Guantanamo Center to correct the understandings, but we took a different way, which is the Quran way to conduct the dialogue, to make these young men people who are working to serve the nation and Islam and country. We translated what was discussed between us in English and some other languages, and they wanted a film to be produced on this issue. This is the trace, a part of the trace of this school of the good way of conducting dialogue and addressing or uprooting the extremism, which is part of it political. The second, based on corruption and terrorism. Others based on civilization, socialism, economic, social, ideological affairs. They are different affairs, but we wanted to refer to the dialogue adopted by Sahaba in the past. We wanted to solidify the experience and modernism given by the founder and adopted by the distinguished leaders and those who believe in this lodge, with those who are not members in the Muslim Brotherhood. They solidify. This is the dominating current in the Islamic blessed nation. I stop here.